Welcome to episode 67 of the Princeton podcast, sponsored by the Municipality of Princeton, encouraging civic participation and amplifying the voices that shape our community. In this episode, Mayor Mark Freda is joined by Princeton Municipal Councilperson Michelle Pirone Lambros for a conversation about the exciting transformation of Community Park South. Michelle shares the park's deep history and its vital role in bringing Princeton residents together, especially those from the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood and nearby affordable housing communities. She discusses how the redesign will meet the town's diverse recreational needs, with plans that include dog parks, pickleball courts, and upgraded athletic fields. Sustainability plays a major part in the project, with rain gardens, preserved trees, and environmentally responsible construction, all guiding the park's renewal. Michelle also describes how this decade-long effort will unfold in phases, shaped by community input and supported through partnerships and fundraising. Above all, she emphasizes the goal of creating a park that feels welcoming, inclusive, and reflective of Princeton's shared values. So without any further introduction, let's join our host, Mayor Mark Freda, and his guest, Councilperson Michelle Pirone Lambros, for episode 67 of the Princeton podcast.
Michelle, thanks for being here today.
Mark, thanks for asking me to talk about this very important subject today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, so let's start with, I'm sure many listeners already are aware of Community Park South, but for those that are not, what role does this park play in the life of Princeton, and how do you see that role changing with expected changes that we're going to be talking about?
Well, Community Park South has always been more than just a recreational facility. It's really the heart of the community. It's a place where generations of children and adults have come together to play, socialize, build lasting memories. And it serves really as our central park, you could say. It's a gathering place that transcends both social boundaries. I think it fosters a sense of belonging for all residents, regardless of their background or their privilege. It's very walkable in the center of town.
Yeah. So how do you envision the new Community Park South becoming a gathering place for residents?
So the park's location bordering the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood, holds profound historic significance. I think it fills a particular niche for our residents in a very densely populated neighborhood. For instance, particularly for those in affordable housing or multifamily housing, many of whom don't have adequate recreational facilities. So just within blocks of the park are hundreds of affordable units of housing, workforce housing that's being built as part of our third round obligation for affordable housing. And just a few blocks down the street around the shopping center, there's more, housing that's, also doesn't have a backyard, in multifamily housing. So this really comes as a great opportunity for gathering.
Yeah, good point. So when you look at the recommended design, how well do you think it reflects the different interests and priorities that we've heard from the community throughout the process so far?
It's not easy to be everything, to everyone, but I do think that there are a lot of recreational upgrades, facilities, both for youth sports, teen sports, as well as adult recreation. So I do think we've addressed recreational areas as well as great community gathering spots and things for people to do, like the dog park. Bring your dog, but meet up with some friends there too.
Yeah. All right, so Community Park South, I think most people know, hasn't really been touched since the 1960s. So why do you think now is the right time or the right moment to take on what'll be a big transformation, and what could Princeton residents expect from this new design?
So, in as much as, I mentioned before that it's a beacon of historical significance and cultural relevance, it serves as a vital hub for the town, and particularly to the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood. I'd say, if not now, when? I think that, as I've mentioned, there's a lot of new housing, new residents, new neighbors coming in, and, with the multifamily, as well. there is really a real need for this, and to help, with the schools, for practice, and just for youth sports in general. So there's a myriad of reasons why now, why not now.
Sure. So what's the current timeline for, there's going to be more governing body and public discussion on the updated plans as the plans get more finalized, there'll be budget approval and then actual construction and completion. So it's not like this is all happening tomorrow, but.
No, unfortunately, these things take time, but we want to be intentional in the timing. So, the first phase was to reach out to the public. We had a great public discussion and open public meetings where people came in and they, saw different design options. They gave us their feedback on what their priorities were. And the first consulting group took that together and came up with a concept plan that was approved at a public meeting with council. Now, the second phase is where we are today, and we're in engineering drawing. So we're in a second phase of engineering, which entails another consultant.
Yeah.
So there's always consultants.
Yes.
And there's a steering committee made up of pretty much the same people that were on the last steering committee giving feedback. And they've already refined the concept plan as was brought forth to the council a few months ago. So we're hoping by the end of the year, we'll have those engineer drawings in front of us again at council. And we've asked them to do this in 3 phases. We know that it's a big, heavy lift financially. So we've asked them to do it in 3 phases so we could do it probably over a 10-year period. And then we're looking to set up what we hope will be like a Friends of Community Park South, a nonprofit organization, so that anyone who wants to participate in the fundraising effort, in building, more support in town, but also financial support, so that it's not all taxpayer burden.
Yeah, which is a great plan. How will the town manage disruptions to park users while the work is underway?
Well, I think the good thing is that doing it in phases will allow for more minimized disruptions. I don't have all the answers yet. I think once we see the designs from the from the engineering department and the engineer consultant, then we'll get a better idea how the phasing is. And that's one of the things we've asked them to consider too, is how will that work in terms of interaction with the community.
Yeah. Important details, but yeah, it takes a little while to figure all that out. I think you mentioned this, but there's been a little more time on it, that you said it'll be done in phases. So there are plans to phase the construction. So I imagine the hope would be parts of the park would stay open while the construction is done. Over how many years we end up doing it?
Yeah, and probably we're guesstimating at this point 10 years. From a financial standpoint, from a cash flow standpoint, from a capital improvement, because the capital improvement would be substantial. And also from a fundraising standpoint, we want some time to be able to fundraise and go for grants. This does qualify as open space funding, so we can both tap our open space funds that are municipal funds, as well as we're talking with the county about using their open space grant program.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you envision this transformation affecting, everyday users of the park? People use the park for a lot of different things.
There are a lot of additional amenities that are planned. For instance, even just having restroom facilities will allow people to stay longer.
Yes.
Being able to upgrade and fix the tennis courts because they're at the end of their useful life. We're adding pickleball courts, and I know there's a lot of enthusiasm for that in town. So, also having fields that are really usable. We have a lot of space at Community Park South right now, but a lot of it is pitched and has potholes, and really the kids or adults too cannot play on it. So I envision that a lot of people will be able to utilize this. And that's a good thing. It'll be really wonderful to see lots of people, gathering.
Yeah, it's a great space. So you've been involved in the redesign process right from the very beginning. Could you walk us through how it evolved from public feedback to the final recommended concept, and just what you see, share like how that process shaped the version of what we're seeing today?
Yeah, I touched on this before, but basically the first consultant, Suburban Consulting, that came on board was really tasked with having a community input process that was robust. So we had a survey out for people that maybe couldn't come into the open forums. We had several open forums here that people could come into. It's like a charrette. There were different different boards with different design options. And before we even got to that process, we had a steering committee. The steering committee consisted of representatives from our rec department, rec commission, council, also the schools. We had several people from the schools, from the environmental commission, and my mind's a blank for who else was there, but they were all important. In fact, so we factored in a variety of concerns. Environmental concerns was really important to us as well. So we factored all this in, and the consultants came up with some really nice concepts that tried to incorporate everything. Oh, like the Dog Park Alliance, and they went out, the consultants, and not only had these open forums, but they had stakeholder meetings with the Little League, with soccer, with lacrosse, with Dog Park Alliance, with the pickleball, and of course with tennis. So we had a lot of input from varying groups that, everybody wants what they want, and then tried to balance it so that it was also, going to be environmentally sensitive. So this was something really important, that we added a lot of infrastructure, green infrastructure, more plantings, rain gardens, and of course the preservation of the existing mature trees was paramount to us. Yeah.
Pretty good process. Of all the new amenities and upgrades planned, whether it's pickleball courts, the dog park, or renovated walking paths, which are you most excited about, and why?
I'm excited about all the recreational facilities, and, even like the volleyball court on sand and a new kiddie park. It's really important that there's a lot for people to do. I'm probably the most excited, if I had to pick something, about like the community gathering spaces, like community pavilions and some picnic tables and the restrooms. I want it to be somewhere where people come and say, let's spend the day, not just run in and out to do one thing, but, having something where the whole family can really have a day. And it'll be nice to be able to have gathering spots like that, because we don't have that robust of a park in town yet.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned this a little bit, and you just said some of this stuff, but I just want to jump on it again. I mean, the plan puts real emphasis on sustainability overall, from preserving the mature trees, as you just said, adding the rain gardens, and thinking about climate impact overall. So from your perspective, how do those choices strengthen the project, and what do they say about Princeton's priorities moving forward?
And that's a big question. But I think the continued existence and vitality of Community Park South is essential, not only, and I mentioned earlier, maybe the underserved residents or new residents that are coming into multifamily homes, they will rely on it for recreation and social engagement, but just to foster, and this is like a big aspiration, but I would say to foster a more inclusive and connected Princeton now and for the future. And I think that's what excites me about the pavilions and the restrooms and things like that are really like infrastructure for people to come and make this their park.
Yeah. So, Michelle, I imagine most people that live in Princeton have a pretty good idea what rain gardens are, but just in case, do you want to just explain maybe two things? What is the rain garden? What's it trying to do? And the other thing, which I think is really important, is preserving the mature trees. Maybe just comment on the rain gardens and why it's so important to preserve those trees.
So it's really, rain gardens, I think, are becoming more known now as, and if you do it in construction, and you increase any impervious coverage,
Yes.
your residents, you're going to need to offset that with a rain garden. And the rain garden is stormwater management in a natural setting, right? So it's planting, and I couldn't get into specifics. We'd have to get Taylor, our arborist, here, but it's planting specific plants and trees that will absorb the runoff.
Yeah.
So that, it's not, we have a lot of flooding issues in a town like Princeton that is so historic, but there's also underground a lot of springs and infrastructure. So on the surface, the rain gardens help to absorb that runoff.
Yeah.
Now, some of my colleagues would have given a much better answer, much more technical, but that's the best I can do.
Yeah. No, I think keeping it short and sweet is better. And then I think that we should just comment that preserving the mature trees, especially, right, because all the good that the trees do for air quality, absorbing rainwater, et cetera, is pretty important.
It's essential, and when people do construction, we have certain regulations. So if you have to take a live tree, a mature tree down, you have to plant a certain number of trees to replace it depending on the size it is. But there's nothing really that replaces it for a very long time in terms of its environmental impact. So there was really no reason. It's pretty bare, really, the park right now today. Yeah. But there are some mature trees. There was no reason to have to take down any mature trees unless they were at their end of life or sometimes they're invasive species. We've had that, or maybe they're already diseased. But other than that, if they're healthy live trees, we worked around them.
Yeah, which is great. And as a community, or as the municipality, we should be setting the example. So it's good that we're, all right, so having said that, my next question kind of ties into that. So what lessons from this project might influence future park or open space projects in Princeton?
I think that the process that we're going through should be really a model for how we go about any large-scale project, whether it's a park project or any kind of, planning project. It's been a really good process. We need to incorporate consultants. It may seem like it's, money up front, but it's money well spent, in my view, because they are able to help us outreach the community, have those stakeholder meetings, gather the data, and then bring their expertise to the table to help us formulate a plan and strategy.
Yeah. And just as we're talking, my mind kind of goes back. I know growing up, spent a lot of time at CP South watching softball games especially. And I think it's interesting that the new design still allows for a couple ball fields, but it also shows the changing trend as to how popular soccer has become since, when the park was built, soccer really wasn't a thing.
That's true.
But you could comment on how the new design allows for both.
And I really like the flexibility of it, so that there are two ball fields, and I think they're situated well because then they allow for a big space in between, which is an open space that can be used for multi-purpose. So you could have soccer games, like full length soccer, or there's also smaller pickup games or just practice games. And not just soccer, but lacrosse and field hockey. So there's other field sports that could be played. So they're multi-use open fields that can be used for the schools or for the leagues and their teams, but could also just be pickup games and people just getting together and say let's play. And we see that a lot here, so it'll be nice.
Yeah, so it's nice to address that. So I think another thing people might be curious about is we put the dog parks there. The dog parks are used fairly regularly. And, maybe you just want to assure people that there still will be dog parks going there.
Yes, we definitely have two dog parks, one for the small dogs, one for the large dogs. People sometimes mix it up, but it's okay. If you know your dog, so, it's really up to the owner to decide where they want to go. But it's important to have the option. I think it's 35 pounds is the limit on the small, and then over that for the large. So it's important to have, and really the dogs don't need a lot, but what we'd like to have is some water featured there of some sort so that, you can get water for the dogs, so you don't have to bring it.
Yeah.
The water, there's a water fountain there now, but it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for years. So it's an aspirational goal, but we definitely need to have the water there. And then more planting. It's a good place to plant. Dogs like trees. People need shade. So there's no reason that we couldn't put more green infrastructure within the dog parks themselves.
Yeah. And then I know you mentioned, new sporting amenities, right? I mean, the volleyball and pickleball.
And pickleball. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking with the schools, volleyball, even though this would be a sand volleyball, it would be good for the students that are on the teams to practice. It's a great pickup kind of, recreational thing for adults or, the kids. And it's a good attraction. I can see, you bring your picnic, you're at the pavilion, you go play a game. And then right adjacent to that, we envision a kiddie park. So somewhere for the kids to run around and play.
Yeah. Nice adjacencies.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe you want to comment a little bit about the tennis courts because, as you said, they're their end of life, so they're going to get a facelift, so to speak. But there's also like a monetary advantage to what we're doing with the tennis courts.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So Princeton Tennis has been a decades-long partner with the town. They do a great job of maintaining and working with us to manage their programs. And there's a lot of programming they do. And they also do a lot of programming to help with the socioeconomically disadvantaged, various communities, both school, senior, and at different levels. So they have, we've agreed to a use agreement with them. They've agreed to give upfront $300,000, and then in 10 years, the agreement would then roll over. If it rolls over, they would put another $300,000 towards the construction or the reconstruction of the tennis courts. Since they're at their end of life, the tennis courts need to be rebuilt, and we're hoping that they would be in the phase 1 part of our plan.
Yeah, right. So there's another way to show that there's effort into how to bring money into this other than just taxpayer money.
Exactly.
And, the whole public-private partnership wherever possible.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example and a great framework to work with a nonprofit entity that is going to work with us managing, maintaining a portion of the park and paying a nice donation towards the reconstruction.
Yeah. All right. So now, zooming out to the bigger picture, how do you think this project connects with Princeton's broader goals, whether it's recreation, sustainability, community building? I mean, what does that mean to you? Here's another one of my long-winded questions, but what does that kind of mean to you personally as a council member trying to pull all that together?
Well, so I'm going to wax a little bit historical here. I mean, the parks, I mentioned before, the park's location borders right on the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood. So there's a profound historic significance. The neighborhood has long been a bastion of African-American culture and heritage in Princeton, with deep roots dating back, to the 19th century. So I think that, through making Community Park South more accessible and inclusive, that has a pivotal role in preserving and celebrating the rich history and legacy of the community. And I think that there's a lot there that, is telling of stories and traditions of the community. And I think it's really be a wonderful way to honor it, for its legacy.
Yeah. Well, so this is all pretty exciting. And I think, just to remind folks, I think you said it'll probably be later towards the end of this year that the updated plans will come back again and people will be able to come to a council meeting and see the latest.
Yeah, it's exciting. So,
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
Yep. Well, Michelle, thank you very much. It's cool to catch up with you and to talk about this project.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Mark.
Thank you for joining us for the 67th episode of the Princeton Podcast, produced by the podcast production team at HG Media and sponsored by the Municipality of Princeton. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. Visit our website at princetonpodcast.com and be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts.